Hello, welcome to the final video for homework number 32, part 3. Let's go ahead and get started so we don't take too long. Question 11 has 3 parts to it. First is solve for y algebraically, and we're solving an inequality, not an equation. So I'll set up my inequality to solve. So we have -5 outside the parentheses, so I'm going to do the distributive property here. And I have 2 outside the parentheses, so I'm going to do the distributive property here. Yes, it is okay to do those 2 steps at the same time. Just make sure you're careful when you do it. One mistake I've seen a lot of students do in this next part of this distributing, it is -5 times -8 or -8, making this positive 40, not negative 40. We still have the inequality less than or equal to. 2 times 5 is 10. 2 times -4y or -4y is -8y. Okay, how you do the next step is up to you. Let me change the colors. I am going to add 8y to both sides, so I get a positive variable on the left side. Okay, not that it matters, but and we get 3y, that's not 0, sorry, plus 40 is less than or equal to 10. Now I'm going to subtract 40 from both sides. And we get 3y is less than or equal to -30. 10 minus 40 is -30. Divide by 3 on both sides. And we get our solution. Y is less than or equal to -10. Okay. So I'm going to pause the recording and skip down to the next part and set it up. When the video in just a second starts back up, you'll see everything set up for parts B, C, and D. All right, here we are. So I have the graph all set up. Represent the solution to part A graphically on the number line. So I have y is less than or equal to -10. So I go to my number line. Oops. Let me get my pen tool set up. And I need to put a dot on -10. So I start like this, but I need to shade it in because it's less than or equal to. So the equal to part means I fill it in. Now, which direction is less than -10? That's to the left. So your arrow needs to go in that direction. Describe the solution in words for part C. All real numbers less than or equal to -10. Pretty simple there. And then part D, using the interval -12 to -8. So what that means is I'm going to list my numbers, -12, -11. So -12 is my low number. -8 is my high number. -10, -9, -8. So I'm listing the numbers that I have. State all integers. So that's why I didn't put the numbers in between. That are solutions to the above inequality you solved in part A. So it can be -10. It can also be -11 and -12 because those are less than that. So these are the solutions to the inequality above. All right, that's it for question 11. I'm going to pause the recording and meet you at question 12. Okay, here we are. Question 12 is a compound inequality. It says solve for x. -6 is less than x plus 1 over 4, which is less than or equal to 3. So I split this apart into 2 inequalities. You take that middle part and you put it with the left side, and then you take the middle part and put it with the right side. So I'm going to go ahead and solve the one in red first using my blue. To get rid of the fraction, the 4 in the denominator tells me what I'm going to multiply both sides by. I multiply by 4. I get -24 is less than x plus 1. Now all I have to do is subtract 1 from both sides. And I get -25 is less than x. Okay, the other inequality, same first step and second step. I'm going to multiply both sides by 4. My 4's cancel. Should have done that over here. X plus 1 is less than or equal to 12. 3 times 4 is 12. I'll minus 1 from both sides, and I get x is less than or equal to 11. Now, these are combined with the word and, or you can rewrite it, which I think would be a good habit to get into. Put x in the middle, put your inequalities and your high and low end, and you're all set. All right, I'm going to pause the recording because the next part is to put it on a graph. I'm going to set up my graph, and I'll be back in just a second. All right, so I needed to take a second to set this up because from negative 25 to positive 11 is a lot of space. So I needed to make my graph my number line a little bigger than normal. All right, so let's start at negative 25. It's x is actually greater than negative 25 if I read it right to left, or negative 25 is less than x. But it is not less than or equal to, so that means it is an open circle. 11, however, is equal to, so I'm going to come all the way up here to 11 and shade it in. Now, because it's an and, that means these two dots, the open one and the closed one, are connected because the arrows would go towards each other, okay? So this is what your graph should look like, something like this. Hopefully it makes sense. We've covered this a lot. A lot of you have shown you can understand the and is going towards each other. So you're all set. All right, that's it for this question. Next question is 13. I'll pause the recording and meet you there. Okay, so 13, given two compound statements below, describe or show what happens to the solutions when inequalities are connected with an and versus connected with an or. So on the left side, we have or. On the right side, we have and. Now, my first attempt here is to do the show, okay? So I did a quick sketch of some number lines. So for or, x is less than negative 2. So I would put an open circle on negative 2, and I would go this way. And or x is greater than 5, I would put an open circle here and go this way. That's the or. For and, x is greater than negative 2, so I'm going to put an open circle on negative 2, and x is less than 5. I'll put an open circle here, but this time they're connected going towards each other, okay? Now, you could describe what you did in your number lines if you wanted to do the describe, but you don't have to do the describe. So let me show you how you could describe it, or what they would look for in a good description. So inequalities connected by or are not the values between the upper and lower limits. By upper, they mean 5, lower, they mean 2. All right? So that is if we're dealing with or. If we're dealing with and, inequalities connected by and, oops, all capitals here, and are all the values between the upper and lower limits. Upper and lower limits. So that's the negative 2 and the 5. All right, that's it. That's how you could explain it. If you just say arrows go towards each other or arrows go away from each other, that's not exactly it. So you'd have to be a little bit more specific with your explanation. All right, that's it for question 13. I'm going to pause the recording and meet you at the last question. Okay, here we are, the final question. Solve the equation for x. For each step, describe the operation or property used to convert the equation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to describe it as I'm doing it. Then I'll go back in and afterwards, I'll pause the recording and type everything in for you so that you know what the steps are or how it should look. Okay, so I'll do my solving first. I like to put a line down the middle so I know what I'm doing. Looks like my first step here is the distributive property, and I'm going to do that on both sides. So I have 4x minus 28 equals 0.3x plus 0.3 times 2 is 0.6. And then the parentheses disappear, and I'm left with the final constant there, plus 2.11. Looks like I have some like terms I could combine here on this side before I do another step. So 4x minus 28 stays the same. 0.3x stays the same. And then 0.6 plus 2.11 is 2.71. Now I need to start doing some of my other algebra skills, like how about let's add 28 to both sides. And that's the addition property of equality. So I'm adding the same number on both sides of the equal sign. So I'm left with 4x on the left side equals 0.3x plus 30.71. Let's keep it going. Almost done. 2 more steps. Now I'm going to subtract 0.3x from both sides, because my variable is all I have over here. And that leaves me with 3.7x is equal to 30.71. And my final step to solving this is the division property of equality. Divide both sides by 3.7, and you will get x is equal to, let's pull up the calculator here, 30.71 divided by 3.7 equals 8.3. So x equals 8.3. Now, the directions do not say that you need to do a check. Would not be a bad idea, though, for you to check it, especially if you have time. All right, so I'm going to pause the recording, and I'm going to quickly type in the steps that happened, and then we'll talk about it, and that'll be it for this video. Okay, here we go. So you can see all the properties that I listed to the right. So first step was distributive property. That's pretty simple. A lot of you are familiar with that. The second step, combine like terms. Third step, addition property of equality. Actually, the last 3 steps that you see, addition property of equality, subtraction property of equality, and division property of equality. All I changed there was the first word, and that all depended on what I did. So because I added here, addition property. Because I subtracted, subtraction property. Because I divided, division property. If we had a fraction and I had to multiply both sides by something, that would be the multiplication property of equality. So there you have it. Pretty simple, actually, for a final question. I think some people get intimidated when they see decimals and all this space, but it really was not a difficult problem. All right, hope this video helps with the other videos and the keys and everything. Obviously, ask questions if you still have some. I hope you all do well on the test, and I'll see you in algebra.